He's an educator, a speaker, an artist. Wait, there's more. He has designed some well-known schools. He has been an advisor to state government on education, a speaker on global citizenship. The list of accomplishments and contributions does not end here. He has authored several books, his latest one being Beyond Academics, Expanding Horizons for Curious Minds. Hi, I'm Nivedita Mukerjee, and today I am in conversation with Dr. Sumer Singh. More details in the links and description below. Do check them out. Please subscribe to this channel to get to meet thought leaders in the space of education. Thanks, Dr. Singh, for taking time today to share your thoughts with me and my viewers.
Let me my pleasure.
With the newest of your contributions to education, sir. Congratulations on the book, which is generating quite a buzz, I hear, in the school leadership circles. Beyond Academics, Expanding Horizons for Curious Minds. It's a book, it's a workbook. How did you conceive of it in the times of apps and tabs and e-learning and thus forth?
Well, actually, this book is not something that I thought of just now. It's been in my mind for a long time. It goes back to a period in the early 80s, 1980s, when we did an experiment, conducted an experiment in the Doon School where I was teaching at that time. And there were 3-4 of us. There was Arun Kapoor, who's now in Bhutan, and there was Francis Phantom, who became secretary of the council. We were all young teachers at that time, and we took a scheme to the headmaster, Mr. Gulab Ramchandani, in a meeting, staff meeting, and said that we would like to experiment with one class for 1 year. Class 6 is where we started in those days at Doon. So give us class 6 for 1 year. We do not want textbooks. We do not want subject teachers. We do not want homework days. We want the children to be absolutely free to conduct the exercises which we have planned over the last 3 months during the vacations. And let's see how they come out at the end of it. Because I think that this whole, division of subjects and chapters and so on is all to the convenience of the teacher, not to the convenience of the student. Knowledge cannot be divided into subjects. Knowledge is something which transcends all subjects. So the headmaster had just come from industry, and he had no previous experience of education.
Baggage.
And he no baggage. So he said, this sounds like a good idea. And the deputy headmaster, who had been my maths teacher and tutor when I was in school as a student, he absolutely blew his top. He said that you cannot possibly even think of this. Because maths, you have to do 5 sums every day in class and 5 sums every day at home. And Sumer was never a great mathematician in my class. So I don't know where he's heading us off into. Anyway, the headmaster sanctioned it. He said that we will conduct this experiment for 1 year. And the vice principal, the deputy headmaster, would be in charge of assessing it. So all assessments, monthly, 6 monthly, annually, would be done by the deputy. And if he found it okay, we could proceed for the next year also, maybe to another class. But that was the condition. I'm very glad that at the end of every assessment period and at the end of the year, the deputy said, well, they've done a fantastic job because the children seem to know more than what they would have if they had done the regular classes, regular syllabus. So what we did was that we had, every Saturday we used to have a session where the work done over the week was put up on charts and shared by everybody because it was done in capsules of 5 students each. And then that work used to get assessed on Monday through a simple, immediate, multiple choice test. and then we move on to the next topic. So our topics were not subject topics. Our topics were topics which were of a general nature, like if we took water, for example, then we would use water to cover all aspects of mathematics, of history, of geography, of biology, of chemistry, of physics. And then we would move on to a totally different topic. It could be food. And it was all becoming very experiential because the children had to do most of the work through interviews.
Right.
There was no internet in those days. So they could not, get onto Google and get the answers. They had to actually go and meet people, discuss with them, understand, and the groups would change every week.
Right.
And the reason why the groups would change every week and the function of each group member was that we wanted them to see how each of them worked.
Okay.
We wanted to see how they could cooperate and get the results.
Right.
How they didn't have to hide their answers when they were writing them and not share them with their neighbor.
Right.
This was all group activity, the way it is in life. You have corporate learning.
Yeah, you don't call it cheating anymore.
Sorry?
You don't call it cheating anymore.
No, there is no cheating because it's not a self. Even the assessment system, which you get in most schools, where you have they say you are first in class, second in class, third in class, fourth in class, fifth, which has been banned in Singapore now. We never accepted that.
Right.
We said that you take the class average and you put the student's average.
Right.
And the parent will understand whether the student is above average, below average, average, excuse me. And then we could work on the student's weaknesses to try and make sure that the student came up to scratch.
Right.
So very non-competitive, cooperative kind of learning, great fun. And the other teachers used to look at us and wonder what we were up to because we'd all be loafing around, laughing. We didn't have a classroom. We didn't have a classroom.
Okay.
We didn't have at all. We used to go out of school for one day in the week to a forest or to a river or something as part of our learning experience. And the rest of the time, they'd be moving around the campus, interviewing, going to the library, digging out something from there. So that has always stuck in my mind that, learning or education is not restricted to your marks that you get in a test or the marks that you get in your academic performance.
Right.
Because academics is only a part of education. And I have worked as an advisor to the Punjab government, where I have done mainly village schools. Most of my work has been done in villages. And I find that people in the villages without an education, in the formal sense, are sometimes very highly educated. Sometimes I meet people for interviews, let's say for English teachers' interviews. They have done their masters, they've done their MPhil, and they know very little English. They cannot write a page of English without making 100 mistakes. So education is not the academic performance.
Right.
And therefore, this book, that we need to go beyond the textbook, beyond the classroom, go outside. And it's the curiosity of the child that has to be awakened.
Right.
Once we can awaken that curiosity, where he starts questioning and trying to find the answers himself,
Right.
then he becomes a learner for all of his life. He does not depend on a teacher, he does not depend on a tutor, he does not depend on a textbook.
Right.
And that was the objective of this book.
So
I hope that answers.
Yeah. I saw some portions of your book which has like multiple choice questions, and another portion of the book I saw which is called Explore More and very open-ended questions. So those are the questions which, I think one section of the questions you can still go ahead and Google or like, search and get. But the other section looks like it requires a discourse, it requires thinking, it would require the combination of the holy trinity of both knowledge, skill, and attitude. All the three would require for the child to wonder
And,
about
and,
before
and there are no right answers.
Right.
That's why there are no answers in this book. Because there are no right answers. You can have your own reason for thinking something. As long as you can justify it, as long as you can back it up, you can have different answers and they can all be correct.
So who would you think are best suited to pick this book up for themselves?
Well, I think anyone. I think someone who's 60 years old could also pick it up, and somebody who's 14 years old could also pick it up. But because it's something which we are marketing to schools, we have to be more specific.
Right.
So we have said class 8 onwards.
Okay. Because
but
I was
know
looking
that
at the question, sir, I thought, I wouldn't mind having a discussion on this with my family because it is a lot of discourse-oriented questions. When I was a teacher, I would say it is the higher order thinking skill that comes in there, because truly I couldn't figure out, and I actually tried out a couple of questions with my neighbor and the children, and everyone came up with their own proposition for an answer, and it was a very enriching discussion. So possibly, I think even young adults, if people of my age, which are like senior people, can enjoy that. So I wonder whether did you have that in your mind?
Yes. Even I have learned from this book. I didn't have all the answers. I've also explored. I've been with children on treks. A recent trek that I went on, I stopped the children and said, okay, this pine tree, what is the height of this pine tree? And I thought they would say, how are we supposed to know the height of this pine tree without any form of measurement? They came up with two answers. I mean, the two methods, not answers, two methods of measuring the tree, and they got it absolutely right. So it was something which, was spontaneous on their part. One kid told the other kid, go and stand next to the tree. We know your height. We'll measure the shadow. We'll measure the shadow of the tree. And on the ratio method, we'll know what the height of the tree is. So I was very happy to see that, another kid said, no, I want to do this through the Pythagoras theorem.
Okay.
And she did it. So, and that meant 2-3 kids getting involved together.
Right.
But they got the right, they came to the same answer, both of them. So I don't know, I may not have even thought of it myself, how to get this height. But, once you make them believe that they can find out something which is not in a textbook, which is not something that has been fed to them, they become very creative. They really become creative.
So that brings me to the question that of your 4 decades of experience with students and teachers, and in a space which is beyond as elite as Doon School, 2 villages of Punjab, what if I would ask you to, I know it's a difficult one, but if I would ask you to distill some of the key points that an educator should keep in mind in today's day and age while transacting knowledge or attitude with their children, what would be the key things that an educator should keep in mind in today's day and age?
When we say today's day and age, we are now looking at a very difficult period that we are going through.
Right.
And things are not going to be the same at the end of it. We don't know when this pandemic is actually going to end. Is it going to peter out slowly? Is it going to end? Are we going to find a solution to it? But this period of time when the children have been at home, have become very savvy with the internet. Teachers have become savvy with the internet like they never were before. This cannot go back now.
Right.
So the textbook is going to become less relevant. Experiential learning is going to be more important. And cooperative learning is going to be more important. Children have really missed each other. They have been in isolation. Recently, in one of the schools in Doon School, when the children came back, the headmaster was telling me, he said that they really didn't know how to get back to interacting with each other because they had been away for so long. So this kind of, there's going to be a change. There's going to be a shift. And I think teachers are prepared for that shift. Teachers are much more aware of how to go about passing on information to children. Children have become better learners, but we have to recognize that. We have to understand that we cannot go back to what we were doing.
Right.
And let's be brave about it. Let's be experimental about it. Let them go in for experiential learning. All over the campus and outside, there are enough opportunities to cover a lot of the knowledge that the child is expected to absorb. So I think that is going to be a big challenge.
Right. So on one hand, there will be technology. On the other hand, there will be experiential. I think it's a new blend. I think education was waiting for this shift for a long time. I think you started in your thought process in 1980s, and I think we are kind of catching up with it now. Any parting remarks would you like to give for parents of today, as parents are quite at sea in the situation that they are themselves in with their jobs and lives and extended family and the nervousness overall that they have for their own and their child's future?
Correct. I would suggest to parents that when you select a school for your child, do look at the classroom design.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, 99% of the schools, if Charles Dickens' characters came out of their books and went to a classroom today in 99% of the schools, they would find no difference. The desk design, believe me, is exactly the same. The chair design is the same. They all face the board as though the teacher is the repository of all knowledge, and they're not allowed to talk. They're not allowed to talk to each other. They have to raise their hand before they can ask a question. This is ridiculous. This is something, and nothing has changed. So you get schools where it is all changed, where there are open classrooms, there are open areas for discussion, there are seating is in groups, where technology has come in a big way. I think this is where schools need to go.
Right.
And this is what parents should be looking at. That is the school actually just conducting itself the way schools conducted themselves 100 years ago? Or are they doing something different to make the child more interested in what he is doing? Right. Interest factor has to be there in a school. So I would recommend to parents to look at that, in the school where the child is, or in selecting a school.
Thank you. So which means no cells and corridors, no cells and rows kind of environment will be fitting our generation anymore. I think a big shift in both the environment in which education is happening, the font of knowledge or the teacher from which the education is happening, the parent who's making choices for the students need to move as how students have moved on in the times.
Especially in selection of career and subjects. Parents should not block the students from what's in their interest.
Right, right. Last, I would like to close this session with, how do you think the kind of a persona over the years you have as an educator of being speaker, of being an artist, of of thinking of taking risks, of taking chances. What aspects of these can a teacher, or how have you brought into your into your persona of being an educator? It's not in the narrow sense of the word. It's far beyond what we understand as an educator is your personality.
Okay, I will say that I'll talk about two things. One is that a teacher who does not love children can never become a teacher. It doesn't matter how much knowledge the teacher has. Knowledge is something which can get created in the classroom amongst everyone. Right. A teacher doesn't have to have all the answers. Right. In fact, some of the best teachers I've seen did not have all the answers. They used to get the children to discuss and come up with the answers. The second thing is that how do you deal with a case where a child has been reported as having done something wrong, where you are expected to punish the child? Right. And when you call the child and talk to the child says, I didn't do it. Now, there may be a teacher or other students or somebody in a position of authority saying, this child did this and it was wrong and he must be punished. And the child tells me, I didn't do it. How do I deal with that? I think this is something which teachers need to seriously think about. I would rather take the child's word, knowing fully well that he may be making an ass of me. I don't mind getting made an ass of by the student. But if I accuse him of something and uphold that accusation of something that he hasn't done, I will be damaging him for life. He will lose faith in his teachers. He will lose faith in the system. I have seen this over the last 40 years, and I can tell you this is a very, very basic and important aspect of education, that you have to trust the child. Right. You may get taken for a ride. How does it matter? Right. But trust has to be built up.
Thank you. Thank you. Golden words for teachers. I think same goes for parents as well. Love, trust, interaction, collaboration, something we can do things together, something we can do, we can learn together, and something we can learn on a continuous and an ongoing basis. Thank you, so Dr. Singh, for your time, and all the best for your book. And I am hoping there are more books to come, and I'm going to get a hold of this book and try out these discussions myself with my students and teachers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've been very kind. Thank you.